Dalton drags Rocco into the PCU auditorium, demanding that the boy be arrested for breaking into his lab. Laura orders Dalton to take his hands off the boy, who is a minor, while Ezra is all too happy to go find the police. Dalton explains that Rocco broke into his secure lab, but Laura suggests that perhaps the door was open and he didn't know where he was. Dalton says there are signs posted that read, "Authorized personnel only." Ezra brings the cops, and Laura tries to defuse the situation, as nothing was broken or damaged. So she's willing to look the other way, given that Dalton manhandled her grandson. Ezra suggests that if the key fob is on Rocco, then the boy knew what he was doing. Of course, Rocco hands over the key fob, and the police are forced to arrest him. Laura tells him it will be okay and not to say another word, and she leaves the debate to accompany him to the station. At the PCP, Nathan sits at his old desk, not aware he's in Chase's seat until he sees the photos. Chase arrives, and Nathan and Chase introduce themselves. Chase brings him up on their current high-profile case, Judge Heron's murder. They are both compromised as Willow is involved. As the murdered judge ruled over her custody case, Molly drops by her mom's office and tells her that she won't be going up against her in court in Willow's case, as Turner wants all the glory. Alexis knows this would have been a high-profile case for her, but Molly is glad, as they've had enough upheaval in their family over the past year. At Bobby's, Danny and Charlotte informed Jason and Britt that Rocco was caught in Professor Dalton's lab, which they had broken into. Charlotte needs to tell her mom, so Britt drives her to the hospital. Danny then explains what happened to his dad, and Jason asks whose idea this was. Did he get Rocco into this? Jason and Danny head to Alexis's office and tell her about what went down. Danny wonders if turning himself in will make this better for Rocco, but Alexis says it will only make things worse, and Drew will have what he needs to put Danny in prison. At the hospital, Dante arrives and is updated about what happened with Ned by Lulu. Emma pipes in about Gio's heroics, and Dante tells him how proud he is of him. Don, Emma, and Gaio walk off to get a drink. When Gio remembers tonight was their heist, Emma says they'll figure something out, as Ned is way more important. Lulu asks Dante how his new job is, and he says he's handling it well and got to rehire Nathan. Suddenly, Charlotte arrives and fills Dante and Lulu in on Rocco's situation. Meanwhile, Britt slinks off and calls someone, telling them they need to get to GH. She then digs through her purse, finds her key fob missing, and realizes Rocco and Charlotte stole it when she asked them to go find her purse. Later, Sidwell arrives to meet Britt in an empty room, and she tells him that Dalton is trying to arrest her son. She wants Sidwell to have Dalton drop the charges. She reminds him that, unlike Dalton, she's been loyal to him. Elsewhere, Gio and Emma have heard the news and panic, and Emma realizes that involving the others was wrong. Gio has an idea, takes her hand, and they leave. Dante, Charlotte, and Lulu head to the PCPD just as Rocco and Laura arrive. Rocco is taken into the interrogation room, and Lulu goes with him as he's a minor. The professor made a statement and returned to the lab, and Dante thanked Laura for staying with Rocco. Dante and Laura talk in private about what happened. As Nathan uncuffs Rocco and leaves him alone in the interrogation room to speak with Lulu. Lulu already knows that Charlotte and Danny were involved and got away, and Rocco tells his mom what happened with Dalton in the lab. Lulu tells her son this is bad, as what he did reflects on his father and grandmother. Back in the station, Britt appears, and Nathan says she needs to leave. Meanwhile, Dante and Laura continue to discuss the break-in and its potential impact on Laura's campaign. Her only concern is Rocco. Rick drops by Sunny's to offer his services as his lawyer in the Measure C business. Sunny already has Diane, but Rick explains Diane is compromised right now, given she's connected to Alexis, and Sidwell's son works for them. Rick says there is an important reason they should work together, as he doesn't want their bad blood to strain Molly and Christina's relationship. Rick is prepared to prove he can be valuable, as he believes he can make a case against eminent domain and keep Sunny's peers. Sunny wants to believe him, and Rick says he wants to be done with the hate. Rick asks him to think about putting the past behind them, and heads out. Later, Gio and Emma arrive, and Gio explains that Rocco is in trouble and it's because of them. They tell Sunny the whole story, including Emma's history with Dalton, across town. Rick meets up with Molly at Bobby's, where she is invested in working on her novel. He sits down with her, and she explains that Cody's rescue of her father inspired her to take the book in a new direction. At the station, Dante tells Chase that his son will be charged with a misdemeanor, so he doesn't need to be held overnight. Meanwhile, Britt tells Nathan she just wants to make sure Rocco is okay. Rocco is brought out, and Dante tells his son he's being released into their custody and must be at the courthouse first thing. Dante walks off, and Lulu explains to her son that dad has to be the commissioner right now. Rocco realizes how badly he messed up. Rocco sees his grandma and Charlotte there, and Charlotte tells him that he didn't have to sacrifice himself. Rocco insists he did. Rocco apologizes to his grandma, but her only concern is her grandson. She says they'll all get through this. At Sunny's, Gio asks if going to the cops will help, but Sunny says giving the police information is not a smart move. Also, unlike Rocco, they are adults, so the consequences would be worse for them. Sunny says Rocco's fate is in the hands of the lawyers right now. At Bobby's, Rick gets a call from Sunny, who tells him he has a way for him to prove himself. In Alexa's office, Jason tells his son that Rocco chose to protect him and Charlotte, so respect that choice. However, he wants to know where the key fob came from. Back at the station, Lulu is walking out with Rocco and the others and is shocked to see Britt there. Britt says she just wanted to make sure Rocco was alright and insists that everything will be okay. Finally, at the hospital, Sidwell scolds Dalton for his negligence and tells him to drop the charges as they don't need police attention on the lab. Dalton refuses and is going to make sure Rocco pays for Laura humiliating him.